Now, last week I told you that the cavalry had arrived on the issue of net neutrality. You need net neutrality to protect the internet. Otherwise, the internet providers can start charging different rates for different websites and really just basically eliminate their competition and anything they didn't like on the internet by slowing it down to the point where nobody could actually access it. So this is incredibly important. And we were worried that some of the giants like Google, Facebook, et cetera, online would think, well, maybe that's not such a bad way to kill off our competition since we're already entrenched and can pay that ransom. But it turns out they did the right thing. About 100 of them wrote a letter saying, no, we're for net neutrality and we're against these new rules proposed by Tom Wheeler, the head of the FCC, that would in effect kill net neutrality. So now there's a Time magazine article about the effects of that. Now, look, there's a lot of activism in this, and I'm about to tell you all about that, and it makes a big difference. But as I told you last week, big money also makes a big difference. So they say in Time magazine, Federal Communications Commission Chairman Tom Wheeler is scrambling to change his open internet proposal. I love that it's in quotes. It's the exact opposite of open internet. Anyway, his open internet proposal after a torrent of criticism from internet giants, startups, venture capitalists, public interest groups, and consumers. And if you think that all those rich folks like venture capitalists and those giant internet companies didn't have an effect in how Tom Wheeler is all of a sudden scrambling, you're not paying attention to how politics works in this country. So, senior FCC official all of a sudden says, Chairman Wheeler has heard the American people, and he has changed the item significantly to make Title II a more robust option. But all of a sudden, 2 weeks ago when the American people were livid, he didn't hear them. When all these giant companies come in with their millions of dollars, all of a sudden he hears the American people. Well, isn't that convenient? Now, Title II is a simple way for the FCC to say, look, these guys who are internet providers are just like phone providers. They're common carriers. They're a utility, and we will regulate them as such. I swear to you that in all my years of covering politics, there's nothing simpler that I've ever seen. There's no getting past a Republican filibuster in the Senate, nothing. It's just the FCC chairman makes that rule change and we're done. You have net neutrality forever. But all of a sudden he's like, yes, we're going to make Title II a more robust option. No, you don't have to do anything. You just have to say they're common carriers and you're done. In other words, you're saying, oh, we'll go more towards your direction, but I actually won't. Well, that's not going to work. So here comes the activism, which I love. The FCC's 8th floor executive office has been thrown into chaos amid a mounting backlash that shut down its phone lines as a growing number of open internet advocates camp out in front of their office. I love it. If you're anywhere near their office in Washington, D.C., join the camp out. Join these groups that are raining down phone calls on them. So that's an important part of the battle. Both sides matter, okay? The money and the activism. Now, to the money point, Time also explains, last week more than 100 internet companies from Google down to the smallest startups sent a letter to the FCC expressing alarm over the agency's proposed net neutrality rules and imploring regulators to protect internet openness. Trust me that had a huge effect. Well, you don't have to trust me. I told you it would have an effect last week, and here it is, having an effect. Now, if you cared about the issues, I think Julie Samuel's point, she actually makes two of them, are devastating. She's the executive director of Engine Advocacy. She says, look, young high-tech firms have represented all net new job growth in this country for the last 30 years. So if you actually cared about all the things that the Republicans and Democrats are always talking about, oh, job creation, what would you do? You would protect the internet. You would have net neutrality. But they don't actually care about that. They care about who's paying them off. You know who Tom Wheeler, the guy making these decisions, is? He's the former chief lobbyist for the providers, cable providers, and then the wireless industry. Of course he put in a rule that would help them and not the American people and not job creation. Julie Samuels makes one more good point. Startups are often unable to compete at a scale to overcome, negotiate with, and manage thousands of discriminatory carriers and networks. I want you to think about that for a second, okay? Because what they would have to go through is, not only do I have to pay a higher amount to Verizon or Comcast or whoever the internet provider is in that area, I then have to negotiate with all of those providers throughout the country. What small business could possibly do that? The legal bills would eat you up. All the procedural things you'd have to do would kill you, even if you wanted to pay the ransom. That's how you choke off all competition. These people are not capitalists. They hate the free market. They're corporatists. And Tom Wheeler is the guy who worked as the chief lobbyist for those same corporations. Oh, he's considering more robust Title II options. My ass he is. So that's what frustrates me about the last quote here from Time magazine. And that is, for nearly a decade, they say, the FCC has been trying to implement rules that would ensure that the internet remains open for the next generation of tech startups like YouTube, Skype, and Netflix. No, that's the exact opposite of what they've been doing. Why do you print that? Like you're doing the FCC a solid, like, oh, they've been trying to figure out how in the world could they do net neutrality. But wait a minute, there's no dispute. You even said it in your own article. You just call them a common carrier. It's done, one stroke of the pen. They've been trying to figure out how to do it. There's no figuring it out. We know how you do it. You call them a common carrier, they're a utility, and you're done with it. No, for the last 10 years, the FCC has been trying to figure out how to screw the American people and get away with it. How do we give them the prize that we all want to give them because they keep giving donations to our bosses who put us into this place? They gave us money when we worked for them before we came to the FCC. They're going to give us a huge amount of money after we leave the FCC and go to work for them again. How do we give them everything and get away with it? That's what the FCC has been trying to figure out for the last 10 years. If they wanted to figure out how to keep net neutrality, it's the easiest thing in the world. Why does the media cover for them? It's just, all right. You have to keep up the pressure on these guys. For example, Free Press is a group that's working really hard on this. You can get more info from them. You can get involved with them. I have no horse in that race except that I care a lot about net neutrality. And they're a good organization, and they're one of the groups leading the fight in this case. It's Free Press, and by all means join the fight because you need both sides. You can't let them get away with this. You can't let them kill the internet.